So today's daily coding question is actually this, which is if we have a number and we want to do some sort of encoding, some sort of very simple encoding, and it's called jumping the five. So basically we have this number in the middle, and let me actually highlight it here, which is number 5, and that's in the middle. And basically if we have the number 1, we're going to jump over and go to number 9. So it's like this. So we're jumping over the number 5. So that's the first one. And likewise for each of the pairs. So for example, 2 will jump over to number 8, and 3 is going to jump over to 7, and likewise 7 is going to jump back to 3, and so forth. So we're going to do that. And finally, if we do actually have the number 5, that's got to jump somewhere, and 5 and 0 switch between each other. So that's basically pretty much it. And then given a phone number or some sort of contact number, how can we encode this basically? So if we have the number 123 dash 987, what will this translate to? And we should get back, so 1's going to translate to number 9, so we should get back a 9, 2 is going to turn into an 8, 3 is going to turn into a 7, and likewise 9 is going to turn into a 1 because we see the reverse coding there, so it's going to be a 1. The 8 here is going to turn into a 2, and the 7 is going to turn into a 3. And hopefully we can even account for this little dash here, where the dash just stays as a dash. So that should pretty much be it. So let's just set about doing this in Python with some code. And the first thing we're going to do is open up a code block and start typing it in some code. Well, the first thing we do, I guess, is we'll create a phone number or a number. We'll call it number. And we're going to assign it the value of a string. And let's just put in some numbers like 1, 2, we'll jump a little bit, so 1, 2, 5 dash 0, 7, 5, 3, 8, 1. There we go, just taking a whole bunch of odd numbers there on the way down, and 1, 2, 5, and let's take an 8 over there. There we go. So that's our phone number. And what we want to do is, there's a few different ways of doing this, but one thing that we can do is we can create a dictionary, and I guess we can put this into a function of some kind. So let's just make a function, like some sort of decoding function. So we'll define a function. I'll use a def, define the function here like that, and some sort of, well, we'll call it an encoder for a start. Encode numbers, there we go. I've used that one before. So let's just do that, encode some numbers, and a function to encode numbers. Now we're going to take in a number, so something like this, and it's going to be of type string. Even though these are actually numbers, it's easier to deal with this as a string. So the number 1 here is actually going to look like the string. So just remember that n equals 1 like this is not the same as n equals 1. This one here is of type integer, and this one here is of type string, like that. So they're two different things. It's easier to handle the strings in our particular case. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to need a dictionary. We don't have to do it with a dictionary, we can do it, in other ways, but this kind of like lends itself in a way to a dictionary. So let's just set a dictionary, and we're going to say that it's going to be a bunch of key value pairs, and each number's got to encode to its pair number, should we say. So for example, number 1 is going to encode to the number 9 like this. And then the next key value pair will be 2, which will encode over to an 8 like this. And the reason why, just as a reminder, is the 2 here, it's got to jump over the 5 over here. So therefore its pairing number, or its opposite number, is the number 8 over here. That's kind of like how we've generated these things. And again, I'll do a 4 and a 6 just so that we can see that. A 4 here, and it will jump to a 6, and I've got one more colouring pen here, so I can do like a 3 and a 7 over there. We've done the 1 and the 9 already, so that's kind of like the colouring pairs. I can even keep them up at the moment, so we'll continue. So we're going to have a 3, we just said, with a 7, and then we will have a 4 with a... If you notice something, there is a bit of symmetry here because each of these number pairs adds up to 10. So there is an alternative trick, and by all means post that in the comment section if you get the hint towards what we could kind of like do there. But nevertheless, what happens when we get to the number 5? Well, we said with the number 5 it's slightly different because it hasn't actually got a, well, it has got a pair, but its pair is actually over here. So here's the 5 pair. Let me actually draw that, which is the 2 reds there. So 5 goes with 0. So we can just do that one straight away as well. So 5 will go with a 0. And that also meant that in the beginning, if we were being like logical or systematic about it, that 0 would go with 5, just so that we could sequentially go through all of the numbers iteratively. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then now we're going to start going downwards. So comma return. I'm going to have to probably remove these at some point, but let's don't forget to put the comma in there. There we go. That the clue was that if I took this comma out, that we saw the little red underscore there, it's expecting a comma or something for the new line. So there we go. So then we've got a 6, and that is going to be the opposite of the 4, 6. So now it's a 6, 4, and then we've got a 7, and that's going to pair up with the 3, remembering that these all add up to 10. And then there is an 8, which pairs up with a 2. If I use a colon, pairs up with a 2. And finally, the 9, which pairs up with the number 1. And that's kind of like all of our pairings. Have I missed any? No, because we started at 0, so we've got them all. So the next bit is, and I'm going to have to get rid of the colouring now. So let's just get rid of all of that. So the next part is to actually use our dictionary in some way to look something up. And finally, actually, what we can do, there's a couple of different ways of doing this. Well, actually, I'll leave it out because we can do this, which is, I believe we can go straight to d.get, and then we're going to get our number like this. But because if we look at this get method over here, if I just hover over it here, return the value of a key if it is in the dictionary, otherwise some kind of default value. And in our particular case, if it's not found, so if there's like a star or something else, if this was like a star, for example, or even like a comma, so anything else, maybe we just want to actually return this actual item back in itself, and that should kind of like be sufficient. And we can actually test this out. So we can do encode nums like this, and then let's just test it out on something like the number 5 over here, and hopefully we get a 0, which we do, and we can test it out on another one. So we can even test it out on the dash here like that, and we get a dash. And if I was to put a comma in here or something else, we would get a comma back. So if the number exists, we get its pairing. And if the number doesn't exist, then we actually get or a symbol as it was. So if it doesn't exist, if the key in the dictionary, I should even say, doesn't exist, then we're just going to get back the original thing that we attempted to search for, because we use this get property. Now we could have done D and then N like this, and we could see all of the numbers actually come down. So we could have done DN like that. But if the item didn't exist, it would then fail. We'd have to put it into a try except block or something else. But the get method is a little bit more convenient for doing this type of thing. So, and again, like, let's just do like one final one. If we put in the number 9, we expect to get a 1 back, and we do, because that is our pairing. So the next thing to do is just loop through the numbers themselves. So we could do something like 4 n in numbers, fact it's just number there, so for any number, and we could print, for example, just to test that everything works, n like that, and that should give us a sequence of numbers back, but we might want to put that into a string. So it might be quite nice to do it in terms of a list comprehension, which is we could say something like the result is, and then here's a list comprehension, and then we will do encode nums n for n in number, like that. And that is the same as effectively, remember our patterns with list comprehensions, we could have assigned a value here, result, to be an empty list over there, and then we could have done an instead of the print, we could have done an r.append, so it would have looked something like r.append, like that. And that this pattern here is actually identical to this list comprehension over here, but what it does is it saves us having to define a blank dictionary over there and then do for and in number. We can do it all like this in one nice clean piece of code in Python, and that should actually give us everything back. So let's just print out our value of r just like that. And indeed we do get that, but it comes back in a list. Maybe we want to convert a list to a string. And one thing that we can do for that is we can just say that r equals, and we'll use the join method, which is this dot join. So r is r.join of r, and what that actually does is it should loop through this actual list here and join each of these sequentially using no spaces or anything. So that's what this bit here is. And let's just print, we don't even have to print, we can just type r like that, and that will print it. That should be sufficient. And indeed we get our alternative number. So 1258 turns into 9802, and then noticing, for example, that the 5 here turned, I'll highlight that, but this 5 over here turned into this 0 over here, so that was quite nice. We saw another 5 here that turns into a 0 over here, and also we got our little dash over here, which was the dash over here. So that is basically how we can do this little jump 5 game in Python. This is one method. You're welcome to post other methods as well in the comments section, or ask any questions in the comments section too. And if you like this video, hit the thumbs up button, hit the follow button, and hit the like button. And even if you didn't like it, still hit the like button, thumbs up button, and the follow button. Thank you.